थेरिगाथा छठा चैप्टर भी समाप्त हो रहा है। then starting the first theory from 7th chapter। 7th chapter में हर एक के 7-7 वर्सेस हैं, उस हिसाब से वो चैप्टर्स बनाए हुए। These stories are common, they are not as spectacular as with many others। पहला है विजया थेरिगाथा। Her reason for becoming ordained was her friend was sister Khema। उसके साथ चली, जब वो ordained हुई तो उन्होंने कहा चलो मैं भी चली जाती। That's the essence of it। देवी खेमा के पास ही गई और उनको टीचिंग दी and within short time she went forth and then reached the Arhanship। That story comes here also about her difficulties in the monastery and इस बार नहीं, ये तो मॉडर्न टाइम की है, तो एंशिएंट टाइम्स की, ये तो भगवान के टाइम की है ना। वो तो अय्या खेमा तो अभी 40-50 साल पहले की बात है। चलिए विजया थेरिगाथा।
चतुक्खन्तु पंचखन्तु विहारा उपनिक्खम्नि अलब्धा चेतसो सन्ति चित्ते अवस्वत्तिनि।
चतुर्थ होता है 4, ठीक है ना, पंच होता है 5। विहारा, विहार से उपनिक्खम्नि में बाहर चली गई। 4 बार 5 बार में मोनास्ट्री छोड़ दी, नॉट गेटिंग द बेनिफिट। लेकिन अलब्धा मतलब लाभ ये नहीं मिला। चेतसो शांति, चित्त की शांति नहीं मिली। चित्ते अवस्वत्तिनि, चित्त जो है वश में नहीं था, इसलिए मैं कई बार मोनास्ट्री छोड़ के भी चली गई थी।
मोनास्ट्री छोड़ने का मतलब डिसरोब करना है?
नहीं, मस्ट हैव गॉन आउट सम टाइम। आई डोंट नो डिसरोब किया कि नहीं। देन नेक्स्ट वर्स।
भिक्खुनी उपासकमा सच्चकं परिपुच्छामि सामे धम्मा धम्मं देशेषु धातु आयतनानि च।
ट्रांसलेशन भी करो। भिक्खुनी उपसंक में थी, होगा पास गई, भिक्खुनी को अप्रोच किया। भिक्खुनी यहाँ मेरे भिक्खुनी में सिस्टर थेरी खेमा। सक्कच्चम परिपुच्छम, पूछा अच्छी तरह से। सक्कच्चम प्रश्न मैंने ठीक से बना के रखे। So asked her proper questions and सा मतलब उसने ले लिया। सा में धम्म देश, उसने मुझे धम्म देशना दी। इस तरह की धातु आयतन आने चाहिए, धातुओं के बारे में और आयतनों के बारे में। धातुओं के 4 एलिमेंट्स एंड 6 सेंस बेसिस।
आयतन सेंस
बेस में 6 इंद्रियां हो गई। बढ़िया।
चत्तारि अयि सच्चानि इंद्रियाणि बलानि च भुजङ्गटिग्रं मग्गम् उत्तमत्तस्य प्रतीया।
4 आर्य सत्य, चत्तारि आर्य सच्चानि, 4 आर्य सत्यों की टीचिंग भी। इंद्रियाणि बलानि च, जो इंद्रियां हैं, जो 5 फैकल्टीज हैं और जो बल बन जाती हैं, उनके बारे में बताया। उसका प्रॉपर टीचिंग हुई। मतलब भुजंग अष्टांगकम मग्गम, भुजंगों के बारे में और अष्टांगिक मार्ग के बारे में समझाया मुझे। उत्तम अर्थस्य पत्तियाँ, जो कि उत्तम अर्थ मिलता है, जैसे हाईएस्ट एम हमें अचीव हो सकता है।
असाहं वचनं श्रुत्वा करोन्ति अनुशासनी भक्त्या पूर्णे यामे उब्ब जाति अनुसरेण। उनके वचनों को सुनकर अनुशासन उनको पूरा उनको फॉलो किया
करोन्ति वो किया, अनुशासनी में टीचिंग किया, जो सुना वो किया अल्लाह।
भक्तियाँ पूर्णे यामे, रात के प्रथम याम में अपनी पुरानी जातियों को, पुराने जन्मों को याद हुआ। रत्तिया मच्छिमे यामे दुर्गजत्वं विसोदयिं रत्तिया पश्चिमे यामे तमोकंदं पदाति। रात के मध्यम याम में मैंने दिव्य चक्षु शुद्ध किए, और रात के अंतिम याम में तमोकंदं अंधकार को महासत्व अंधकार उसको डिस्ट्रॉय कर दिया। डार्कनेस मीन्स इग्नोरेंस डिस्ट्रॉय।
इति सुखेन च कायं कलित्वा विहारिं तदा सप्तमीया पादे विसारसि तमोखण्डं पदार्यति। इति सुखेन इंराप्चर
कायम, काया जो है उसमें कलित्वा विहारिं तदा सारे इन्वॉल्व हुए भी काया में प्रीति सुख, देन आई ड्वेल्ट इन दैट स्टेट। सप्तमिया 7 दिन, 7th डे पादे पसारे, मतलब 7 दिन में बैठी थी, 7 दिन के बाद मैंने पाँव पसारे। तमो खंडम पदारी, क्योंकि इग्नोरेंस खत्म हो चुकी थी।
तो मतलब एक दिन में ऐसा नहीं होना, पिछले चले आ रहे हैं।
इन सब की जो
बाद में
स्टोरीज है ना, अभी देखोगे आप हर एक में, हिंदी वाले में तो स्टोरी थी नहीं है ना, इंग्लिश में लिखा जाए इससे पहले की स्टोरी थी, पिछले बुद्धों के साथ क्या किया, तो फिर मैंने उतना ही पोर्शन लिया। इन दिस बुद्धरा शी वॉज बॉर्न इन होम ऑफ ए सर्टन गुड फैमिली इन राजगृह, and then when she came of age, she was a friend of Therigāthā, and when she was a householder, then this one story was इन सबकी पूर्व जन्म की लंबी लंबी कहानियाँ हैं। So we come to सत्त का निपात। सत्त का मतलब 7, जिसमें 7 वर्सेस है। पहली है उत्तरा थेरीगाथा। उत्तरा seems to be a popular name, कई सारी आ चुकी हैं अभी तक उत्तरा थेरी से। मूसलानी गहेत्वाना धन्यम कोटेन्ति मानव उत्तदारानि पोसेन्ता धनम विन्दन्ति मानव। मूसलानी, मूसल होते हैं जिससे पिछले ज़माने में वो कूटते थे। आप लोगों ने कहानी देखा भी हुआ, हमारे टाइम पे होता है कश्मीर में, इतना बड़ा उसका पत्थर का इतना होता है ह्यूज, एंड देन जो मूसल होगा वो करीब 6 फुट लंबा होगा, तो ऐसे और से एक एक करके 2 लोग पकड़ के, तो जो पैडी होती है उसमें डाल के तो उसको कोटते थे। तो जो मशीन से आजकल होता है वो तो हाथ से करते, तो वही वो बता रही हैं। दूसरों को गहन करके धान्यम कोटेन्ति, कूटते हैं, ग्राइंड जो ग्रेन्स को कूटते हैं। क्यों करते हैं? पुत्र दारानी पोषण का, पुत्रों और पत्नियों का पोषण करने के लिए। धनम विन्दन्ति मानव, और लोग जो है वेल्थ को एंजॉय करते हैं।
घटेत बुद्ध शासने यम गत्वा नानुत्तपत्ति क्षिप्रं पादानि धोवित्वा एकमन्तं निषिद्ध। घटेत बुद्ध शासने,
कोशिश करो, एफर्ट करो। घटेत बुद्ध शासने, भगवान की जो टीचिंग है उसमें एफर्ट करो। यम तत्वा, जिसके करने से नानु तपति, तपन नहीं होगी, कोई परेशानी नहीं होगी। क्षिप्रं पादान धोवित्वा, स्टैंडर्ड थिंग ना, जल्दी जल्दी पाँव धो लो, दे वुड बी गोइंग आउट, एंड एक मंतम निसीदता, एक तरफ बैठ जाओ। So the instructions are being given in that manner.
चित्तम उपार्थ पेतवना एकाग्रम सुसमाहितं पच्यवेक्षता संखारे भवतो नाचा अकतो।
सब वर्ड हम यूज कर चुके हैं।
चित्तम तो चित्त
हो गया। उपट्ठ पेत्वा भी आता नहीं कि वहाँ स्थिति पठान में सती में उपट्ठ पेत्वा एस्टैब्लिश करके प्रतिष्ठित करके हिंदी में कहते चित्त को एस्टैब्लिश करके इसमें एक अगम एक ऑब्जेक्ट के प्रति 1 पॉइंटेड और सुसमाहितम मतलब रेस्ट्रेंड है, समाहित भी किया हुआ चित्त को। प्रैक्टिस के बारे में बता रही है उनको। तो एक्चुअली वो सब पहले भी आपको याद होगा ना, जो टीचर बोलती थी तो वो भी रिपीट करती हैं जब when they become enlightened and she repeats what is the teacher. I think in case की टीचर थी पटाचारा, so that she became a great teacher later. She is reciting that एकगम सुसमाहित, चित्त को समाहित करके एकाग्र करो। पच्यरेखात संखारे, संखारों का पत्यवेक्षण करो, यू रिफ्लेक्ट ऑन द संखारास। परतो नोच अत्थ, तो किस तरह से रिफ्लेक्ट करो? परतो दूसरे हैं, मेरे नहीं हैं, दे आर नॉट माइंड, सो थिंक इन दैट टर्म्स। संखारास आर जस्ट फिनोमेना व्हिच आर अराइजिंग इन नॉट माइंड।
तस्साहं वचनं श्रुत्वा पटाचारानुशासनं पादे पक्खालायित्वान् एकमन्ते उपाविंसति। तस्य, उसके वचन सुनकर के पटाचारा का अनुशासन कर पैरों को धोकर एक तरफ में बैठ
गए ध्यान करने के लिए, एक तरफ बैठ। तो पटाचारा ने ये उसको इंस्ट्रक्शन दी होंगी ना, जो शुरू में थी ना कि बुद्ध की टीचिंग में स्ट्राइव करो, जल्दी से पाँव धो और बैठ जाओ और फिर मन को एकाग्र करो। ये दो वर्सेस मस्ट बी पटाचारा वर्सेस, and then she is telling this and then the consequence.
गत्या कुरमे याने उपजाति अनुसरिं गत्या मध्यमे याने दिव्य चक्षुं विशोधे। रात के पहले यान में पूर्व जातियों का याद आ गया और मध्यम यान में, दूसरे यान में दिव्य चक्षु का विशोधन हो गया और दिव्य चक्षु प्राप्त।
द्वितीया पश्चिमे यामे तमो खंडम ददादुं देविज्जा अथ उट्ठासन कथाते अनुशासन। रात के अंतिम याम में अंधकार दूर हो गया।
तीन विद्याएं, त्रिविद्या, तीन
विद्याएं
अथ उट्ठासन,
जब मैं उठी तीन विद्याएं मुझे प्राप्त हो चुकी थी। कथाते अनुशासन,
जो उसकी टीचिंग थी वो मैंने पूरी कर ली
थी।
संगामे अपराजितं पुरा खत्वा विहस्समि देवे जाम्बी अनासवा।
सक्का मतलब जो देवताओं का राजा है ना, जिसको हम लोग इंद्र कहते हैं, तो पाली भाषा में सक्का शब्द होते हैं। सक्का देव तेजस्सा और 30 देव जो हैं मुताबिक इन श्लोक का 30 देवास संग्राम में अपराजित हैं, जो नेवर बीन डिफीटेड इन देयर बैटल्स। पुरखत्वा विहस्सामि, वो मेरी आई एम बीइंग रेस्पेक्टेड बाय देम, मेरा आदर करते हैं, एस्टीम्ड बाय देम, मैं विहार करती हूँ। ते विद्यामी अनासवा, मैंने तीनों विद्याएं ग्रहण कर ली है। अनासव, जो सारे अवसर समाप्त होते हैं।
तीन विद्याएं,
there are different meanings given by different people. एक तो यही है, first past lives, my past life, and others past lives, and third the knowledge of destruction of the knowledge of arhanship, destruction of all the ignorance.
ये वो परा विद्या
वो तो पराब्ध शब्द है, वो तो मतलब तो यही है ना, दे आर जस्ट वर्ड्स, पराब्ध वो पराब्ध। So that is the verses for today. So good time to study today. Stillness from page 178, passion.
Page 178 passion.
मैंने उसको कलर कर दिया था।
So, Ajahn Jaisaro takes topic by topic, and with each topic he tries to bring out some elements of Buddha's teaching, and then applies that with to Ajahn Chah on how Ajahn Chah behaved, or what kind of situations arose in the monastery with respect to those particular things, and or in general Ajahn Chah's life. This particular section, passion, so Ajahn Jaisaro starts with talking about worldly passion, which is rooted in ignorance, and then Ajahn Chah takes a different meaning of passion and says that there is something called say possibly more noble kind of passion, when and the noble kind of passion is the will towards goodness, or the will towards truth, Kushla Chanda or Dhamma Chanda, which is as mentioned here. And the way Ajahn Jaisaro says that when this worldly passion reduces, then this wholehearted or wholesome passion rises, and he says that this was the case with Ajahn Chah also, that in his early life, early monastic life, he had a problem with managing the sexual desires which bewildered him. But then Ajahn Chah was able to turn his passion away from the world of senses, and that energy propelled him in the path of Dhamma Vinaya. And this passion manifested in Ajahn Chah's teachings of words, where he'll say that I'll rather die than transgress the Vinaya. I'll rather regret losing my life less than losing my virtues. So this is a passion he developed towards the Dhamma and towards the Buddha's teaching, and possibly this passion and made him more daring and bold, and he has been, like, we've heard him proclaim that Nibbana lies on the shore of death. Essentially, this passion of Dhamma made him push himself to the limit towards see what happens next. We have already like we've already read in some of the passages that he has been giving some advices to the fellow monks, that when you sit, for example, and you have pain, and can you endure the pain and see what happens after the pain? Is there an end to that, or what is next to that? So it's really more of intelligent way of trying to seek beyond, trying to challenge yourself and see what lies beyond that challenge. And there is one more statement which comes out, especially with his passion towards Buddha and Buddha's teachings, was that he had once told a newly ordained monk, Ajahn Chon, that if you really know how to bow to the Buddha, you would have tears in your eyes. That's the kind of energy and dedication we can say that Ajahn Chah had. And most of his passion was, when the monastery was set up, his passion was directed towards teaching of the trainee monks, so that they can grow in Dhamma. And then Ajahn Jesaro tries to compare the overall success of the Ajahn Chah's whatever Ajahn Chah set up as a first monastery, and the way he taught was that when Ajahn Chah stopped teaching, there were about 60 branch monasteries, and after his death, there were close to now 300 branch monasteries. And then there is this one more aspect with Ajahn Jesaro brings out, is that even when Ajahn Chah was ill, and the body may not have much energy because of the disease or the fever, but whenever Ajahn Chah started the Dhamma talks or started teaching somebody, he became alive, and somehow he was able to tap into the inner source of energy as the Dhamma came out. And then we go to the next section, contentment. And we all know the meaning of contentment. And so again, Buddha's Vinaya and Buddha's life himself shows a way of how a monk should live a contented life with very limited requisites. And those requisites are just the robes, the food which is offered in the alms, by the alms round, lodging, and possibly the medicines if they are required. And the way Buddha established this discipline was that it was not a kind of a burden on the lay community where the monks are demanding. It was more of a possibly the mutual benefit kind of a relationship. And then Ajahn Jesaro tries to sketch how this virtue of contentment was being followed in the monastery. And with respect to Ajahn Chah, for example, whatever food was offered to him, he'll accept that gracefully. He never showed any particular wish of one type of food or another. And for example, there was this idea proposed by few monks that possibly we can make Wat Pa Pong a charitable organization. And the whole idea was that if the organization becomes charitable, it will have support and funds possibly from much organized way, and the monastery will be able to sustain and in a much more easier way. But how the Ajahn Chah replied to this was that it's a good idea, but I don't think it's a correct one. With a charitable foundation, you would no longer be depending on your own pure practice. If you all practice well and correctly, you won't go without. The Buddha never set up a charity. He just shaved his head and lived as we do, and he did well enough. He laid out the path, and all we have to do is walk along it. That will, without doubt, be enough to keep you going. The bowl, the robe, they are the charitable foundation that the Buddha established for us. With them, you will be always receive more than you need. So, and so that's the kind of the simplicity Ajahn Chah established in the monastery, and till this day, I think this is a simplicity which is being followed. Though the times where the people which were possibly not well off during that time, and the monasteries having very basic requisites, the monasteries these possibly have much more, but still there is a sense of simplicity which we can see. And there is this maxim at Wat Pa Pong that if you got little, use little, and if you got a lot, then use little. And so there is another thing which is, we come to know how Ajahn Chah followed the simplicity, is that slowly in late 1960s, as the popularity grew and more number of people came to monastery and the more funds were available to monastery, and nobody would have given a second thought if Luangpur had taken use of some of the funds to have some basic facilities in his kuti, for example, some modern amenities in the kuti. But this was not the case with Ajahn Chah. Though his kuti was bigger than the kuti of the fellow monks, the only reason for that was that so that below the kuti he could receive the guest, and his basic room was still 3 by 3 meters with one low wooden bed, inch thin mattress, and only the daily use supplies of water jug, spittoon, and the toilet was a little far in the outhouse on the edge of the forest. So even though the conditions in the monastery improved with more dana, but the way Ajahn Chah showed contentment remained same. and as whatever funds Ajahn received, they all went to the Sangha fund. And as he always said, that we've got enough to eat and a place to live. What's the point of accumulating things? We only eat once a day. And in words of Ajahn Anek, he says that the things which made me feel most proud and satisfied to be Luangpo's disciple, and the things that inspired me the most, was his own practice. He was never one to accumulate offerings, no matter what their value. He once said that as monks, the moment that we start accumulating things, then it's the beginning of the end. And then there is one more incident which is mentioned here, is that one of the wealthy late female disciples, Khun Ying Tun, offered Luangpo 90,000 bahts at that time, and which roughly is around $50,000 of today. And she insisted that the money should be used only for the personal use of Luangpo. And so Luangpo then requested the fellow monks that we should use this money for whatever expenses which involve him. And in the end, they printed a hardbind books of Luangpo's teaching and distributed it. So that was the personal use of money by Luangpo. And then there is this one more incident which is very inspiring with respect to contentment. As once Luangpo was invited by king to come to royal palace in Bangkok and have food offering from the king. And Luangpo came with his alms bowl to the palace, and when one of the senior monks, possibly of some different monastery, saw Ajahn Chah, he commented that, "Cha, don't you feel embarrassed about eating out of your own bowl in front of the king?" And the Luangpo replied, "Don't you feel embarrassed about not eating out of your own bowl in front of Buddha?" So that's the kind of contentment we can see Ajahn Chah had. And the next section is about equanimity.
Don't you feel not eating out of your own bowl in front of Buddha? वो किंग की बात करे बुद्धा को दिख नहीं रहा था, मैं सामने मूर्ति है.
Once Gandhi was the king of England.
In his
two clothes. Somebody asked,
not even
embarrassed to meet the king in this attire. So he said the king had enough clothes for the two of us.
So the next topic is about equanimity, and possibly Ajahn Jaisar wants to bring out that how well one is able to maintain his calm and composure with different things changing in the physical world. And one of the incidents possibly which is mentioned is related with Vietnam War, where monks, and in particular possibly his calm and composure possibly the Ajahn Chah was also labeled as communist, and there might have been some rogue people who wanted to who possibly made a plot to kill Ajahn Chah. but supposedly the person who had plotted this himself died of rabies, but the way Ajahn replied, Ajahn dealt with these kind of rumors was that he refused to add fuel to this fire, and he just maintained his practice and discipline, and situation himself cooled down when the things changed.
So the monks being seen as communist, ये
वहाँ पे था उस समय
because अजान सुमेधो भी बोलते हैं कि उनको पुलिस पकड़ के ले गई थी thinking that he was a communist.
तो वहाँ पे जब वार हो रही थी तो उनका जो ये उसके साथी है ना, लाओस और आगे वियतनाम साथ ही है, तो ये फॉरेस्ट में रहते थे, तो फॉरेस्ट में तो लोग वही लोग छुपते थे ना जो लड़ाई कर रहे थे अमेरिकन से,
and they would even
think that there may be communist in attire among us.
Oh, okay.
अब कोई अमेरिकन फॉरेस्ट में बैठा है तो उसको शक तो होगा नहीं कर क्या रहा है यहाँ पे.
सर अजान सुमेधो को तो फिर भी समझ में आता है कि he was didn't look like a Thai, but अजान चा को कोई कैसे,
तो वो भी काफी लोग जुड़ गए थे ना उनके साथ.
So I think this particular section also talks about fame, and when people become famous, it's typically very difficult to maintain same kind of equanimity or same kind of composure, and it is this kind of situation is related in this section. And but before that, there are these words of Buddha with respect to fame, which bring out this thing that a fatal things are gains, favors, and fame, a bitter, harsh impediment to the attainment of the unsurpassed freedom from bondage. And then there is one more saying that for the temptation they provide to pride and arrogance is strong. It is just like beetle feeding on dung, gorged with dung, standing before a great dunghill, who might despise other beetles, saying, "I am a dung eater, full of dung, gorged with dung, and before me is this great dunghill." And this is in reference to fame and pride. And so how this is equated is that one of the things which happened with Vietnam War was that the Thai government started building roads in whole of the country, and as the roads came near the monastery, and the situations changed. The monastery was much more easily accessible for the lay community, and then is some small events, for example, publishing of a short biography of Luangpur by one of his disciples, Maha Ambron, happened. The fame of Ajahn Chah spread in the city, and the people like civil servants, army officers, air force officers who were posted in Ubon started to arrive. And for example, two members of King's Privy Council visited and asked few Dhamma questions to Ajahn Chah. And
incidentally, I don't know that you are aware, these days Ajahn Jaisaro teaches the prince Dhamma. He goes to the palace to teach him Dhamma. The rare thing. He is greatly respected by the king and others.
Kings and others.
So it seems probably the present king's father had asked him. क्योंकि present king जो young है ना, इसकी reputation अच्छी नहीं थी,
Okay.
तो उनको वो शायद रखा होगा, जहाँ तक मेरा ख्याल आ रहा, तो वो शायद अभी भी चल रहा है. अब now that young boy is now the king, no? The old king has died. अभी इसका भी correlation हुआ ना, नहीं, तो अभी भी वो शायद जाते हैं, बता रहा था तो मुझे कि he still goes there and Prince now the king receives instructions from.
तो ये होना चाहिए मतलब
पहले ब्राह्मण होते थे.
वो ये था ना, क्या प्लेटो का कहानी थी ना, philosopher should be the king, तो वो उसको दूसरे एंड पे ले गया. At least there should be somebody to admonish them and tell them how to really.
गाइडेंस के लिए और उसके लिए वाइज डिसीजंस के लिए
ट्रेडिशन में हमेशा
हमेशा
ऐसा
से
होता है. There used to be ऋषिज in the palace to advise the kings. And those kings were powerful kings. He is of course a titular head, but still, पुराने king तो बहुत respected थे वहाँ पे. He was respected by all and sundry, enormous.
But sir, in Thailand the king is powerful, right?
Not really,
No.
not in the terms of constitution, but
Sure.
because of his respect, he was so much respected कि वहाँ इतने prime minister हट गए. अभी present पिछला prime minister शायद जेल में चला गया, शायद अभी जेल में, पता नहीं, मुझे याद नहीं. But there were so many coups in Thailand, military coups. King was never, king's authority was never questioned, either by army or by the elected representatives. He was seen as a great benefactor. The पिछले king थे, King Rama the 9th, which now is the 10th. He was highly respected for his great work he had done. And he is seen as one of the key factors in modernizing Thailand. और वो जो कम्युनिस्ट की भी बात हुई थी ना, मुझे ख्याल आया कि वहाँ पे जब वियतनाम वार खत्म हुई तो कम्युनिस्ट इधर आ गए थे. They tried to capture Thailand and convert it into communism. So there was a big fight with the army for a long time. तो उन्होंने फिर king and I think advised it is a big story somewhere I had read, the government, that you should not these young people, boys जो astray हो गए हैं, you keep them at bay, don't allow them to come in, but जो वो बातें कह रहे हैं वो ठीक कह रहे हैं कि तुमने गांव में ईसान में बहुत गरीबी थी और कुछ काम नहीं किया, इसलिए वो सब. So he did huge developmental work in the area where the communist influence was strong, and that finished their influence. And then those the leader of the communist movement was like the general in the Thai army. So it's seen as a great story of transformation, how the insurgents, and he knew everything about how to manage the things. So उनके बड़े बड़े लीडर जो हैं आर्मी में आ गए. So rather than punishing them for revolt, they were their ability was used. So वो एक not much talked of story of Thailand है. तो उसी से मुझे ख्याल आया कम्युनिस्टों से and king से that's how they handled it.
So this, as Ajahn Chah's, one of the another reason of Ajahn Chah's popularity was that in late 1970s, when his teachings were being translated in English and then also in other different languages, and possibly the audio recordings of Ajahn Chah's teachings also were being listened. And then what happened was that on 5th December 1973, Ajahn Chah was given this title of Chao Khun, monastic with the title Para Bodhiyana Thera. And when Ajahn Chah returned from Bangkok back to Ubon, there was this big gathering of people and lots of celebrations that one of the monks of their area has been given such facilitation by the king, and in the end when Ajahn Chah was asked to talk about this particular thing, and Ajahn Chah said that the title of Chao Khun was a worldly convention. He was the same Luangpur that he had been a few days before. Worldly dhammas of gain and loss, fame and obscurity, pleasure and pain, praise and blame are all fickle and changing. Knowing the nature of worldly dhammas, the mind is not moved by them. And then there is this simile, beautiful simile he gives, that the bridge over the river moon always remains the same. It doesn't arch up if the waters rise, it doesn't sag if the waters fall. So this is with respect to the section of equanimity. Now we
just to share with you, now this title of Chao Khun has been given to almost all senior monks of Ajahn Chah tradition.
okay.
Kodiyam, Anek, Ajahn Sumedho, Ajahn Prasanno, Ajahn Amaru, all of them.
अच्छा
So Ajahn Chah tradition is very well respected now. Things have changed so much.
So when you go to Thailand, does the immigration officers recognize that you're going to say
when we-
Pong or
when-
बनाना
when we go, we have to show ना where we are living. जैसे हमने वो दिखाया लेटर उनका, तो उन्होंने कुछ कहा नहीं,
कुछ नहीं करना
कुछ नहीं, you know that place. यहाँ पे जो मैंने में वीसा कराया उसमें जरूर मेरे को उनको पता नहीं था शायद, तो
किनको?
मैंने नचा दिया उन्होंने।
तो यहाँ से वीजा करवाया था
मैंने यहाँ से नहीं कराया ना, मैंने इस बार सोचा ज़्यादा स्मार्ट बनने के लिए कि ई वीसा करा लेते हैं, कहीं जाना नहीं पड़ेगा, पैसे भी नहीं जाना। बट दैट ई वीसा बिकेम अ नाइटमेयर. They charged me more than double the fees, and then they said कि क्या है, किसने लेटर लिखा है? और शॉक कि क्या कह रहे हैं, अजान केवली का लेटर था कि हमको इनवाइट किया गया, किसने लेटर लिखा है? उसको बहुत वो they thought that this was a hotel, कि उसकी ओनरशिप का वो लेटर दे। मैं ज़रूर किसी अमेरिका में हो रहा है शायद वो वीसा, या कोई ऐसा बंदा है जिसको पता ही नहीं है।
then they ask for more documents
हाँ, then I wrote to अजान केवली, मैंने कहा मैं विड्रॉ करूँगा तो प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगी। wrote to अजान केवली, उन्होंने पूरा मुझे अपने डॉक्यूमेंट भेजा, अपॉइंटमेंट एज अबॉट थाई डॉक्यूमेंट था, mentioning about the monastery and all that. We created lot of
but visa on arrival is much easier because वो वहाँ वहीं के लोग
वहीं हो जाता है, आराम से हो जाता है। और जैसे यहाँ से वीज़ा लेते हैं यहाँ पे भी हो जाता है, इनको इन्होंने यहीं से कराया था वीज़ा, क्योंकि तो वो सहूलियत हो जाती है। इनफैक्ट वीज़ा ऑन अराइवल इज कॉस्टलियर देन वीज़ा है।
अच्छा
एंड वीज़ा ऑन ई वीज़ा वाज इवन कॉस्टलियर देन दैट।
So visa on arrival is costlier.
देन वीज़ा है,
Costly
इट इज ऑलमोस्ट डबल ऑफ द कॉस्ट है। और वहाँ कई बार बहुत भीड़ होती है, कई बार तो नहीं होती, कई बार भीड़ बहुत ज़्यादा भीड़ होती है। इट डिपेंड्स ऑन व्हिच फ्लाइट यू आर गोइंग एंड व्हाट इज हैपनिंग।
और यहाँ से वीजा लेने जाते हैं तो इमिग्रेशन में आसानी हो जाती है।
या यू डोंट हैव एनी प्रॉब्लम।
इमिग्रेशन ज़्यादा परेशान नहीं करता है।
नहीं परेशान क्या, वो आपको वीजा लाइन में नहीं लगना सीधा
वीज़ा ऑन अराइवल करेंगे तब भी कोई परेशानी नहीं होती वहाँ पे, तो दैट्स अ स्टैंडर्ड थिंग देयर।
इट्स जस्ट क्यू थोड़ी लंबी होती है
क्यों लंबी होती है वीज़ा की? जहाँ से हम अंदर गए थे ना, वीज़ा ऑन अराइवल से हो गया था ना मैं, तो मेरे पास जो वीज़ा ई वीज़ा था, इवन देन आई हैड टू गो थ्रू वीज़ा ऑन अराइवल, बट आई डिडंट हैव टू स्टैंड इन द लाइन।
अच्छा
There was a separate column counter for it, and I was the only one in that line apparently. So I just got through straight. So now I think people know Ajahn Chah very well. At least they know. I don't know, in Bangkok also people must be know.
So the next section is on personality, and to understand this personality, Ajahn Jaisarup essentially means is that, and what is the personality of an Arhat? And how does it differ from a normal individual? And
it is very important for us to study because we come across so many eccentricities in people who are generally seen to be Arhats. Different idiosyncrasies. कई बार आदमी जो है सोचते हैं क्या है, what is this?
But so then is
we have
there
a different एक वो इमेज बनी हुई है ना कि अरहंत ऐसा ही होना चाहिए. काफी समय लग जाता है कई बार. People have different personalities. कल भी जैसे अजान जी को डिस्कस कर रहे थे वहाँ पे, they were mentioning about the Lumpo Moon and others past. When they used to take fetal marks, Ajan Mahabodhi and some smoke also. So that was more of a habit rather than desire motivated action. गाँव में ऐसे चलता है.
so how do we know the difference?
Yeah, you can't make out from personality. From these habit patterns, you can make out from the way they live in the world. जैसे अजान चा का भी आता है ना, he used to take betel nuts.
तो वो तो बहुत आता है.
और अजान सुमेधो एक बार फिर उनके पास गए और कहा कि छोड़ दे. मुझे अच्छा, हमको अच्छा नहीं लगता. It won't be good to outsiders to see you taking betel nuts. Thank you. Finished. Needs a student like him to say and a teacher like him to do. It's not easy to tell your teacher whom you respect so much. That is the advantage of having Americans.
But sir, how do we then
differentiate
that?
So, with respect to personality, typically the person who becomes Arhant, then or whatever attains something, the personalities like greed, anger, they kind of disappear.
Personality traits based on this, not
personality traits based on defilements such as greed, anger, shrink or disappear, and those traits free of defilement like kindness, compassion grow and mature. But then there are certain traits or character traits or eccentricities and elements of personalities that are not sustained by defilements. These will survive and in the enlightened beings.
इसको बहुत important है because we have a notion. I myself had a lot of difficulty in when I used to hear about Nisargadatta Maharaj and other things.
So inarticulate aspirants become inarticulate Arhants. Stern aspirants become stern Arhants. Charismatic aspirants become charismatic Arhants.
Yes.
There is no fixed mold. And just as bright and radiant people may occasionally prove to be deluded or totally unbalanced, so too the most unprepossessing figures may, in fact, be fully liberated. Luang Po once compared enlightened beings to birds of different species, differing in size, wingspan, coloring, sound, and so on, but all recognizable members of the bird family.
अभी जब हम लोग वहाँ गए थे तो तीसरे दिन हम वहाँ गए ना वाटरफॉल. आपको ये गए नहीं तो हमने कहा वहाँ चलते हैं, छेड़ी में ध्यान करेंगे. तो जब हम वहाँ जा रहे थे तो रास्ते में एक बैठा हुआ था आदमी, ये कपड़ा से ज़रा सा कपड़ा लपेट के यानी उस कटिंग भी एक वो ट्रीज छोटे छोटे बुशेस के वो ब्रांचेस लेके ऐसे फर्श पे बैठा हुआ, ज़मीन सड़क पे बैठा हुआ था. He was cutting these like this. तो Can you imagine who was that person, old man? It was Lumpur Liam. अरन को कहता था अरपन देख लो Lumpur पहचान रहे उनको. You couldn't figure out that he is there, just sitting quickly and cutting those, उसके roots निकाल रहे थे, most probably to make some decoction or medicine. और उनका जो उपट्ठक था वो नॉविस होगा शायद, वो खड़ा था, वो स्माइल कर रहा था, वो काम कर रहे थे, वो खड़ा था. इसने हमको देख लिया तो स्माइल की, फिर हमने देखा था तो झुके एंड देन मेरे मन में आया कि मैं फोटो खींच दूँ. मैंने कहा उनसे पूछ कराटे के फोटो चल दिया. मेरे वहाँ जा रहे हैं उनके, जाओ वहाँ पे जाकर ध्यान करो.
मतलब उनसे बात हुई आपको?
हाँ बैठे हुए थे.
नियम से बात हुई?
हाँ
अच्छा.
बैठे सड़क पे बैठे हुए थे. एक कपड़ा पहना हुआ था, एक रोड़ा हुआ था, एक यहाँ पहना हुआ, अपना वो काटे जा रहे थे चुपचाप. उनका पट्ठा खड़ा था तो देख रहा था हमारा कि कैसे कर रहा है. वो मतलब कोई निकाल के देता होगा ना वो कुछ. So that it's, I mean, his demeanor is totally different from, for example, Ansumedo or others. और Lumpur Piyak is so stern. अभी हम Lumpur Bain के पास गए, who is probably the senior most in the Vasas. Lumpur Bain जो है,
अजान लियम से भी ज़्यादा.
हाँ, he's 71 Vasa है, means something. 48 में वो monk बना है. Lumpur Mun के time monk बने हैं. He was alive. He was absolutely correct. हमें थोड़ी देर हो गई तो बता दिया उन्होंने. देर होने का मतलब क्या होता है.
कैसे मतलब
उनकी मोनेस्ट्री में जा रहे थे because we were traveling for 200 किलोमीटर जाके, तो नेचुरली पहुंचने में देर हो गई. इधर से देर हो गई, इधर से. तो सबने फिर फॉरगिवनेस की. तो दैट इज अ स्टैंडर्ड थिंग ना, वी ऑफर समथिंग, यू से फॉरगिवनेस सेरेमनी. So his reply was, don't seek forgiveness from me, seek from yourselves. And he was smiling and laughing, but absolutely straight, no issue. You know, that's a difference of character. वो हमारे साथ वो थे नंदो जी, अजान नंदो, जो इसको अर्पण की वो करा रहे थे, क्या रिहर्सल करा रहे थे monk बनने के लिए. तो उनकी सारी हड्डियाँ टूट गई थी, पहाड़ी से गिर गए थे मननगिरी में, तो उनकी बाकी तो जुड़ गई, ये नहीं जुड़ी. तो ही कैन नॉट सिट ऑन द ग्राउंड. तो हम सब लोग फर्श पे बैठे हुए थे, तो वो जैसे ये फर्श था वो ऐसे टांग नीचे करके बैठे हुए. तो उनसे उन्होंने पूछा क्या हुआ, तो उन्होंने बताया ऐसा हो गया. वो थाई में बोल रहे थे, हमें समझ नहीं आया, बाद में अजान के उन्होंने ट्रांसलेशन किया. कुछ तो हमें लगा समझ गया था. उन्होंने कहा कि अच्छा ये टांग टूट गई हो, ठीक है, अच्छा हुआ. कहते हैं तुमने पिछले जन्म में ना कई तो क्या पक्षियों की टांगें तोड़ी. तो बियर इट हैप्पीली. गुड, वेरी गुड. कैन यू इमेजिन? सीट्स अनिच्छा, सीट्स अनंता, हैप्पी. Absolutely straightforward.
ऐसे सुनते नहीं ना कि डाल टूटी और ये टूटी और
ऐसे this must be the reason for it. So you should happily see through your karma. जा रहा है, खुश रहो.
बुखार रहा था तो उसके लिए क्या फास्टर दे रहा हूँ संस्कार.
वो तो बता रहे हैं ना, हर चीज के लिए you can't apply same formula to everything.
हर चीज के लिए.
तो because the people have the ability to see, no? The Lumpur PF and so straight and direct. Totally different perception. And Lumpur's Medo, he'll never speak anything to anybody which is harsh or strong. He'll always encourage you. And Lumpur DM would not speak at all. उनके बताया था मुझे, अनीश को उनसे कहा कि मुझे कुछ ऑफरिंग करनी है, ये मुझे नहीं चाहिए, ये नहीं चाहिए, ये मुझे कुछ नहीं चाहिए. So you have totally different people. So having seen so many people who are very high, fully liberated, we don't have any objective of we are passing judgment, but you can see their different personality traits.
But so, especially for things like which fall in the category of addictions,
You don't know, no?
For example, Nisargat Maharaj ka या फिर eating betel nut or having smoke.
Yeah, you
They
don't know
more or
whether
less
it's
fall into the addictions. हम contemporary world में तो उनको addictions ही बोलते हैं.
Yeah, normally तो बिल्कुल बोला जाता है, but if it is an addiction, then it won't be easy to take it out. It won't be easy to show it up. जैसे अजान शाह के केस में बताया जाता था, that he immediately gave it up. So it's more of a habit rather than an addiction. I don't know. I mean, that's what they are saying. So you can't really think of because the question was being asked whether it is a जैसे वो था ना recept on Sura Mera Yamadya Pamadatthana. But they are said Pamadatthana, they call it distortion in the understanding. So in that sense, things which cause a distortion in the understanding should definitely not be taken. So it becomes quite a challenge for us to see this.
So we'll read one more paragraph.
ये पैराग्राफ पढ़ लेना चाहिए पूरा.
The second qualification that must be made in speaking of the personality of the enlightened beings is that they do not have the same relationship to their personality as normal person. Liberation in the Buddhist sense means freedom from all identification with personality and personal history.
In fact, this statement reminds me of a question which was Lumpur Liam से पूछा था, किसने शायद विनय जी ने पूछा था ना, आप when you go to the Buddha and you see your photograph, आपको कैसा लगता है? What does it matter? वो उनको डीएम से कहा था कि जब आप वो कर रहे हैं, you know, when he was doing, सामने आप अपनी फोटो को ही वो कर रहे हैं. What does it matter? So you don't look at it as belonging to you or yourself. It's all nature. So that's why we who are given to identification with body and habit patterns, we take sankharas as ourselves. No? So we then think the other person's sankharas are also his. That is the fundamental shift. I think it must be mentioned here. पढ़ दे वाला चट्टी वाले और नेक्स्ट पैराग्राफ भी पढ़ दे, then we can stop.
Be that as it may, unenlightened beings identifying with their own body and mind cannot help but perceive an enlightened person in the same way they perceive themselves, as embodied agents. And it is because that is so that the personality of great beings is significant. For many students, it may be the response to teachers' personality rather than an intellectual assent to the teachings that proves the deciding factor as to whether or not to take up the Buddhist training seriously or having taken up beer with it.
Yeah.
And then it talks about the personality trait of Luangpo, which remained, he was more like a charismatic bird. And though he may not be physically that handsome in his young days also, but it was sometimes difficult to take eyes off him. And this particular charismatic personality possibly ran through with some degree in his family, and as his brother, eldest brother, Porla, when sometimes on Observer's Day he'll come to monastery and in the kitchen he might be telling some stories, that same charismatic figure will come out. And then in terms of personality, there is this thing which comes out is that there's this sentence that as a center of attraction, he showed as much self-consciousness as a lion on the plains surrounded by safari jeeps. He remained the same, whatever the surrounding conditions. And again, you can equate him like a personality of a mountain. That one monk said he was like a mountain that was unaffected by rain, snow, or shine that came and went around. And again, there is this words which Ajahn Sumedho has said about Ajahn Chah, that sometimes I look at him and there be just no one there. The look he had of total emptiness was quite moving, because you realize that the personality was just something he used as a compassionate tool. And then there is a specific set of examples in which you can see that how Ajahn Chah used to switch these different roles or different personality one by one so quickly. And for once he may be comforting a bereaved father in a from a homely love, and then suddenly he will switch his dialect from the local dialect of Ubon to Central Thai, and possibly may explain some doctrine to a Bangkok academic, and then suddenly he will switch his personality and admonish a monk for some sloppy job done. And it is very different from the multitasking as a office work or in our businesses we were familiar with. And in this particular roles, he was doing something without any sign of stress or trouble, and there was no emotional runover. And then there is this small incidents mentioned by Ajahn Chah, which tells you that how what Ajahn Chah may, how you may relate to Ajahn Chah may be something of one thing, but what Ajahn Chah may be is something very different. So I'll just directly read this example. That one evening Luangpur was sitting on the wicket seat underneath his kuti, talking to a small group of monks about the old days, and I was in my favorite position, massaging his feet. His manner was so warm and inspiring that I felt utterly content. I could have sat there the whole night without complaint. Then a torch beam moved through the forest towards us. It was Venerable Tito. He was quite senior monk who had transgressed a serious Vinaya training rule, Sangha Disesa, and was undergoing Manata, the prescribed purification practices. Venerable Tito had brought some of the Luangpo's freshly washed robes to put away upstairs. Without any stiffening in his body, Luangpo suddenly barked at him in the harshest possible way. The contrast with the atmosphere in the small group made the hair on my back stand on one end. At that moment, Luangpo was utterly ferocious. Venerable Tito quickly did what he had to do, bowed and left. Then Luangpo continued our conversation as if nothing had happened. He made no comment about Venerable Tito and didn't refer to what had just happened at all. It was as if it had never happened. I suddenly felt very headless. The intimacy I had felt holding his foot in my hand and the enjoyment of the conversation had made me forget that he was someone who dwelt somewhere far beyond my scope and comprehension. I felt a strong compulsion to be mindful and alert. I realized that I could take nothing for granted. And I'll just read the last paragraph also, that another monk spoke of Luangpur being a mirror in which you always saw yourself. His ability to reflect people's attention back on their own defilement was not due to him adopting an even emotional tone. Rather, it was consistent lack of self in whatever mode he was expressing. And so his disciples loved him and feared him in inexplicable, visceral way. Okay, that's for the day. So, I think before we close for today, is there any questions? We can take the questions. Apart from that, I think a small announcement that next week we are going to have one retreat, weekend retreat in Dhammarama, and possibly there will be similar pattern of retreats coming up week by week. There are small few seats for male lay followers who can come and stay, but those who want to join for some time in the evening, they can also free to come and join. And Wednesday, I was not clear.
Wednesday evening there will be classes, meditation classes for beginners as well as seniors if you want.
Yes.
That will be Wednesday. And today he's going for this
Site.
where Ashoka pillar is there in near ISKCON temple. So we'll go there and then some other place. So if people want, they can join in there.
And additional thing is that people can always welcome to invite him for meal shopping at their homes.
Pindpata. Yesterday evening some ladies had come. First time some ladies had come there. Somehow they came, so they said we'll arrange for Pindpata in the sector 15 or sector 11 में रहती है, तो एक sector 22 में रहती हैं, तो उन्होंने कहा we'll try to arrange and maybe meal offering also. And Ajan incidentally would be coming to my house on Tuesday also. Offering a meal, so you're welcome to join. And then he'll teach me Thai and I'll teach him Hindi. That is the deal. So he'll stay. After the meal, we'll have teaching. So we'll have a class. I'm going to search for some good book and do all that. So in future, we plan to. I have promised that I'll take him to Adi Badri and other places which Deepak knows. And Kurukshetra and Chaneti Stupa, and then we can go Asand also. Asand तुम नहीं गए थे शायद? Asand. The Stupa, I don't know उसका कुछ बचा भी है कि नहीं. वो धीरे-धीरे उसकी सब ईंटें निकाल रहे थे जब हम गए थे.
उसको बैरिकेड करा हुआ.
बैरिकेड तो क्या होगा, लेकिन वहाँ पे मवेशी बांधे हुए थे और लोग जो है निकाल रहे थे. असंध यहाँ है, हरियाणा में, यहाँ से करीब 150 किलोमीटर दूर. And it's a stupa which is the biggest stupa in the country. अच्छा. उसकी ऐसी तैसी कर रखी लोग. वहाँ पे मैं और रतन जब गए थे, we meditated in that with the animal shit around. It was such a peaceful place. Such a peaceful place. मतलब उसका diameter बड़ा था, इतना बड़ा है, biggest. But वो अब उन्होंने मतलब बैरिकेड किया. वो किसी प्रोफेसर ने, बेचारे ने, हरियाणा के यूनिवर्सिटी के प्रोफेसर ने उसको डिस्कवर किया था. तो एसआई वालों ने कहा अच्छी उसकी इज्जत रख ली, उसको बैरिकेड बना दिया, बस बात कुछ नहीं किया. इसी तरह शुंग का है, तो शुंग है सच हिस्टोरिसिटी ऑफ, मतलब शुंग का मेंशन उसमें आता है. शुंग डायनेस्टी, शुंग वो है, शुंग वहाँ पे जगह है. उस पर अंदर ये जो ट्रैवलर थे ना चाइनीज, हुंगसान, उसकी ट्रैवलॉग में आता है कि वो शुंग गया था, वहाँ मोनेस्ट्री थी, वहाँ स्तूपा थे, और वो वहाँ मिल गया है. उसको भी एसआई ने प्रिलिमिनरी सर्वे करके छोड़ दिया, किसी ने फॉलो नहीं किया. और वहाँ पे भी लोग जो हैं निकाल रहे हैं चीज़ें. वो भी हरियाणा. हाँ, वो आदि बद्री के पास है, मतलब इसमें कुरुक्षेत्र से आगे, चनेती स्तूपा के आगे है. वो बेचारा अकेला कोने में। जब हम गए थे, तुम भी गए थे ना तो शुंग तो शायद हैं, ऐसे मार और तुम भी गए, हम गए थे तो फटाफट आस पास के लोग आ गए। तो उन्होंने क्या किया है कि उसके आसपास एरिया में कब्रिस्तान बना दिया, मुसलमान है।
वो जो हम ऊपर
तो ऊपर चढ़ने लगे तो वो सब आ गए
गाँव के अंदर जो गए थे।
हाँ, कि यहाँ से पिछली बार जब आए थे तो सोना चांदी निकला था, शायद कुछ निकले इस बार भी।
Actually, both the communities, they see it as empty land. They want to occupy it.
It's a very sad thing.
चनेती
में तो स्टूपा प्रॉपर है, वो तो ऐसा ही में वेल मेंटेन है, बाकायदा स्टूपा निकला वहाँ पे। तो लोग आते हैं, स्पेशली तिब्बतन्स कम एंड डू सम प्रेयर्स एंड ऑल दैट। चनेती का स्टूपा प्रॉपर नहीं है, और एक कुरुक्षेत्र में स्टूपा प्रॉपर है, और एक कुरुक्षेत्र से आगे, कुरुक्षेत्र के अंदर ही थानेश्वर में, वहाँ पे भी एक पूरी एक्सकवेशन है उसकी पुरानी मोनेस्ट्री के। शेख चहेदी का मकबरा है उसके साथ में, उसके साथ में वो है, मकबरे के साथ। मतलब वो बाद में बन गया होगा ना, लोगों ने अडॉप्ट कर ली। टेंडेंसी टू ग्रैब द प्लेस, तो उसको ग्रैब करके उन्होंने डोमिनेशन उस एरा में तो रहा ही है ना। भगवान बुद्ध की चीज़ें तो कहाँ बच पाएंगी। सो and these are the places which have a historicity because they are mentioned by Yun Sang in his writing. Thaneshwar is mentioned, Shung is mentioned, and he mentions he saw the monastery with 1500 monks there, and then he says that there are 3 stupas, one for memory of Buddha having visited, then Sariputta having visited, Moggallana having visited, and he gives all that. उस समय जो लोगों के मन में था कि ये इनकी याद में बनाया गया कि ये लोग यहाँ आए थे, एंड दैट इज द प्लेस वेयर दैट फेमस रट्ठपाला वाज ऑर्डेन्ड। सो यू नो रट्ठपाला हाउस फेमस इज इन दी होल टिपिकल, जो रट्ठपाला सुत्ता ऑर्डिनेशन है वहीं पे हुआ था, बट उसका कोई पूछने वाला नहीं। हमने काफ़ी कोशिश की थी, सुभाष जी को भी कहा था, उनको बालकृष्ण जी को भी कहा था कि वो कहोगे आप चीफ मिनिस्टर को आने, और जाएंगे तो हम कभी जाएंगे। मेरे ख्याल से एक दिन वहाँ रह लेंगे, हायर सम बस और समथिंग एंड गो समटाइम इन अगस्त।
उधर क्या कहते हैं तो सिटी में क्या
नहीं, उसी एरिया में सारे को टेक काइंड ऑफ अ पिलग्रिमेज टू दीज साइट्स, go to Assam, then Kurukshetra, then Thaneshwar, then Chaneti, then up to Adivadri। एक रात रुक जाएंगे वहाँ यमुनानगर में या कुरुक्षेत्र। यमुनानगर का तो हम फेमिलियर है ना, 18 होटलों में, तो होटलों में बुकिंग कर लेंगे। इट बी गुड थिंग, ही विल आल्सो फील हैप्पी एंड विल हैव अ चांस टू पे आवर रिस्पेक्ट्स। ये प्लान्स थोड़े बन रहे हैं। एक प्लान अनीश ने बनाया कि उनको मथुरा ले जाएंगे, मथुरा म्यूजियम दिखाने, क्योंकि वहाँ पे काफ़ी फेमस स्टैचूज हैं। मथुरा हार्ट की जो भगवान बुद्ध की स्टैचूज है,
मथुरा में है
म्यूजियम। बहुत बड़ा जगह थी मथुरा, वॉज सेंटर ऑफ बुद्धिस्ट। मधुरा
क्या नाम है?
मधुरा
DH नहीं था, DH।
और आर्किटेक्चरली जब वो सब फेमस स्कल्पचर की हिस्ट्री,
मथुरा इस आर्ट बहुत फेमस, बुद्धिस्ट आर्ट मथुरा में बहुत भारी इसका स्कूल। यहाँ पे भी देखेंगे नेशनल म्यूजियम में 1-2 चीज़ें हैं उनकी।
नाम भी नहीं है,
मथुरा के लोग भी नहीं जानते होंगे कि यहाँ पे कभी कुछ था। जैसे कश्मीर में कोई नहीं जानता कि वहाँ पे कनिष्क थे और वहाँ पे 4th काउंसिल हुई। महायान वाले तो उसको 4th काउंसिल मानते हैं, जो वहाँ कनिष्क वहाँ पे हुई थी, पता ही नहीं।
कश्मीर में हुई?
हाँ, वहाँ पे प्रॉपर प्लेस है। हाँ मैं था, सॉरी है नहीं, श्रीनगर से हटके अवंतीपुरा एक जगह थी और उसके आसपास की जगह।
वो फर्स्ट महायानीज काउंसिल थी, मतलब संस्कृत में जब ट्रांसलेशन हो गया।
वो उसी में हुआ होगा या उससे पहले हुआ मालूम नहीं, बट महायाना वाले तो उसको 4th काउंसिल मानते हैं, क्योंकि वो उनको भी तो मानते ही है ना, ये 3 काउंसिलों को वो मानते हैं, वो उसको 4th मानते हैं। तो वो कहते हैं बाकी सब जो है उससे एक ऐड करके, उनकी काउंसिल एक ज़्यादा है हमारे थेरावादा से, इसीलिए because they treat it as it comes. So many parts of the history are forgotten totally. Especially the Buddhist part is forgotten mostly.
मथुरा में तो कोई नाम नहीं है। वो तो कृष्ण
मथुरा में, कश्मीर में किसी को पता है? चलिए, so let's do the closing homage. थोड़ी मैत्री कर लेते हैं. भवतु सर्वमङ्गलं रक्षन्तु सर्वदेवता सर्वबुद्धानि भावेन सदा भवन्तु. भवतु सर्वमङ्गलं रक्षन्तु सर्वदेवता सर्वधर्माणि भावेन सदा सुखी भवन्तु ते. भवतु सर्वमङ्गलं रक्षन्तु सर्वदेवता सर्वसङ्घानुभावेन सदा सुखी भवन्तु ते. अरहं सम्मा सम्बुद्धो भगवान् बुद्धं भगवन्तं अभिवादे. स्वागतो भगवता धम्मं नमस्सामि. सुपटिपन्नो साधु संघो संघं